Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to have all of you here. We all know that our BBMP Council has not been in operation for 2 years, and we thought it was a good time to get a sense of what citizens are feeling. We have worked on this survey extensively for the last 6 months, and from February to June, we have worked on the actual survey, and then we spent this time doing the analysis and weeding out what was not required, etc., etc. So we are today presenting you the results of the survey. It's a very, very in-depth survey of 405 residents of Bangalore. And I want to thank each one of them for having taken the time to respond to this query so patient, all the queries so patiently. I think it's the events of the last 2 weeks have shown us how important it is for each one of us to be civic engaged, knowing how to engage with our respective cooperators and the other political functionaries and the bureaucracy. We will take you through the study that we have done and some of the quick insights, and then we can open it out to questions. We have our esteemed panelists. We have with us Mr. R.K. Mishra, who is part of B.PAC, Mr. Ashwin Mahesh, who is part of ARP and also a great civic enthusiast, Anjali Saini, who is part of Whitefield Rising, who bore the brunt of, they all bore the brunt of all the issues that we saw in the last 2 weeks. Mr. Vishwanath, who has been giving so much of sane advice on what we must do to ensure that our water flows are much better. And Srinivas Alavalli from Janagraha, who has always been a good friend. And so welcome to all my esteemed panelists. We are proud to have everybody. We are hoping we will have a couple of more people join us. Mr. Arvind Limbavali has said he'll try to join if as you all know, assembly is in session, but we didn't want to delay the release of this report anymore because of the coming ensuing holidays for the Sera, etc. Otherwise, we would have very much liked to have a number of political leaders also associated, because today it is sort of preaching to the converted. But I still felt it was necessary for citizens to actively participate and understand what the issues are and how they can engage better. And hopefully this detailed survey will be will find its way into the manifestos of the respective aspirant cooperators when they decide to contest for elections. So this is really a precursor to that. We hope all the aspiring cooperators would take notice of all the detailed feedback that people have given and act upon various civic issues that are plaguing the city. So without much delay, let me quickly give you a brief about the survey itself. We wanted to understand, we wanted to release the Citizen Perception Survey because, as I said, we have not had a functioning BBMP for the last 2 years. We thought, let's understand the citizens' priorities. There is nobody that they can talk to, nobody they can go to, other than the administrator and the BBMP officials themselves. No elected leader is there to listen to them, and at the ward level. The survey was done across 8,405 citizens, 8 wards, 8 zones, 186 BBMP wards were covered. As I mentioned, at that time when we did the study, we had 198 wards, and then it moved to 243, but we still feel that all the findings are very representative because it is such a large sample. So the idea, we had 3 broad categories in which we had this survey: citizens' awareness and participation, the satisfaction level on various city governance and service delivery issues, and some questions related to BBMP and BBMP elections. So these were the 3 sections. So one was about awareness and participation. The other was, what could the city do for its people? And 3, how can we participate in elections and start making a difference? Can go to the next slide. Can we move to the next? Yes. So as you can see, our 8,405 responses were spread very well across the city with good representation of responses from various people in various zones. Dasarahalli, West, South, Rajarajeshwari Nagar, Yelahanka, Madhepura, East, Bomanahalli. So all of them were covered. Yeah. Next one. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So if you look at the overall results, key insights from citizen awareness and participation, 85% of the respondents were aware who the previous cooperator was. This is an important one because quite often people are so disengaged that they don't even know who their cooperator is. We were pleasantly surprised to see that out of the 8,400 people that we interviewed, 83% of them said they knew who their cooperator was. So 85% of them said they knew who the cooperator was. So that was, to us at least, the first step, being aware that who so and so is the cooperator. Overall, if you look at the satisfaction level of the work done during the last period, 2015 to 2020, 35% of the respondents said that they were satisfied, which means the rest were not really satisfied. A lot of them said okay, and 23% of the respondents said clear dissatisfaction. So really, we need to, this is a wake-up call to all the cooperators to say, how can they provide better services? And the government also, how can they provide better services to the citizens at large? If the satisfaction level is only 35%, then I think there is a huge amount of work to be done. And therefore, the question then arises as to how can citizens more actively participate and how can they be aware of many things so they can question their elected leaders and talk to the BBMP and start getting their issues resolved. We also had a question on how the cooperators, whether the cooperators were proactively engaged in identifying their problems, whether they were able to resolve the problems that they reported. It was good to note that 57% of the respondents said that they had experienced instances where the cooperator proactively helped them. So it goes to show that if they actually, citizens try to engage, we are able to get some response from the cooperator. But if you don't engage, it's more likely your problems will not get resolved at all. So the increasing the level of engagement with the cooperator is a very, very key activity. Therefore, we move to the next question about ward committee meetings that become very, very important. It was good to note that 70% of the respondents said that it was very important to have ward committee meetings and it would be effective in addressing their problems. While conceptually they all agreed that 70% of the respondents agreed that being present at ward committee meetings would be helpful to them, it was really, we found that only 47% were attending the meetings, said that the meetings were happening regularly. So, and only 30% of the, 47% said that they were not even aware of the ward committee meetings. So that is a big point, that in spite of all the efforts which are done, 47% of the respondents felt they were not aware of the ward committee meetings. Only 30% of the ward committee meetings happen regularly, and 23% said that the meetings do not happen or they are very erratic. One second, please don't go back. Yeah. The next point was regarding ward committee attendance at ward committee meetings, 63% of the respondents said that they had not attended ward committee meetings. So I think the real issue in all of this is people seem to agree that 70% of the people seem to agree that ward committee meetings would be effective in addressing some of the civic issues that they face. However, ward committee meetings are not happening regularly. Only 47% of the respondents said ward committee meetings were not happening in their respective wards. And only 63% of the respondents were not attending ward committee meetings. So when this is the kind of situation, in spite of knowing that it's so important to attend the ward committee meetings, if people do not engage, the issues are not going to get resolved very easily, because some of these are very complex issues and have multiple stakeholders who have differing points of view. We'll go to the next slide now. So we have section 2, which is on satisfaction level of governance and civic amenities. The overall governance of Bangalore city, 57% of the respondents in Bangalore said the governance of the city was not satisfactory. I think this is a very, very telling statement, because people do believe that the city is very, very poor in its governance, and there's a lot of work to be done. The top 5 issues that need attention as per the survey in order of priority was construction and maintenance of roads, potholes, etc. We know what kinds of problems we have had, the mobility issues that we have had, drinking water, garbage removal, solid waste management, sewage management, public toilets. These were all the 5 critical issues that people face. This was in order of priority. So if you look at it, mobility and construction and road maintenance was the biggest hindrance that people feel across different strata, because mobility creates aids economic activity. People are not mobile and they cannot they are forced to stay close to the place they work, that is unaffordable. So it restricts their economic activity and their freedom to choose the kind of jobs that they will take up. If you look at the satisfaction level of services in Bangalore, roads and mobility, as I said, was the area where people were most dissatisfied. Lake development and rejuvenation was one area comparatively more satisfied. It's possible because over the years, there have been many lake activists. Civic activism around lakes has been very, very heavy. It has been an emotional issue. So the government has been forced to act in several cases. Now, they've not solved all the issues, but at least we can see that in several lakes, work has happened, and there is a game plan to bring more and more lakes, rejuvenate a lot of them. So there is a general level of satisfaction which is a little higher than some of the others, where people believe that their issues are not getting handled at all. Go to the next slide, please. So in all this, by the way, we have, as I mentioned earlier, this study was done during the period February to June, the collection of the responses, post which we were engaged in analyzing the data. It has nothing to do with the events of the last 2 weeks, where Mahadevpura faced the brunt of the rains and the flooding that ensued after that. But this is symptomatic of a larger malaise. Mahadevpura emerged as the zone that had the highest level of dissatisfaction with respect to civic amenities and the service delivery. And Rajarajeshwari Nagar zone emerged as the one which was most satisfied. Now, the reason for Mahadevpura possibly emerging as a zone that is most dissatisfied is because most of the development there has been private development. There is very little government has done to develop that whole area, whether it is water, parks, playgrounds, on every dimension, roads, mobility, waste management. You look at any dimension, they have scored much lower than most others. So it leads me to believe, when we look at the way development has happened in Mahadevpura, a lot of it is private development. There may be nothing wrong in private development because a lot of economic activity has happened around that area. But governments cannot abdicate their responsibility of urban planning and creating amenities. People can create jobs, but government has to create the amenities which are required to support all those jobs, the economic activity, etc. And Mahadevpura investments have been very, very low compared to the kind of economic activity that has happened in that zone. And that has clearly created a lot of dissatisfaction amongst the citizens. 34% of the respondents across the city were satisfied with the mobility conditions. Only 34%. So you can see the level of dissatisfaction. Only 30% of the respondents were satisfied with the condition of roads. 30% were satisfied with condition of lighting and safety, and 37% were satisfied with the parks and playground, 46% with lake rejuvenation efforts. So really clearly it is symptomatic of the key issues not getting attended at all. Everywhere we are in the zone of 30 to 34%. That is all that people satisfaction level that we see across the city. For those of you who want to look at this in much greater detail, we have ward-wise information. So that will give you much greater detail. But for the sake of speed, we will go quickly and we will go to the last and final section, which has to do with BBMP election. We asked people this question, and it's important to ask this question. And we did this at this time because we are going to have a BBMP election sometime soon, hopefully soon. How many voted during the last elections? While this is not representative fully of the entire city, but to our surprise, we found 88% of the respondents had cast their vote in the last BBMP elections. That is a good sign because we did this across a very large sample size. To see that 88% of them had cast their votes was a good sign. Reason for not voting during the previous election, that is the balance who did not vote primarily because of two reasons. They could not get their voter ID, or at that time they were traveling, or at that moment they were residing outside of Bangalore. When we asked the next question, are you ready to vote in the upcoming BBMP elections, there was a resounding 93% response to say that they were going to vote in the next election. So it clearly shows that people are very, very interested in elections. We have to make it easy. We have to make it easy for them, and to register. Now the Election Commission has made it much easier for people to get themselves registered. Hopefully this will, over a period of time, see much more increase. So that...
Revati?
Yes.
So this, you said 88% people voted. So of 12% who did not vote, 40% did not have a voter ID.
Yeah.
40% were residing outside. Is that right? Of 12%?
Yes.
Who did
At
not
that
vote.
point, yeah. On the day of voting, they were either residing outside or traveling.
No. But these are only 12% who did not vote. Because 88%
yes.
voted.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. That's a very big number.
Yeah. So for those of you who want more details, I thought we should keep this brief. I just wanted to highlight the big issues, and I thought we should move ahead with the actual panel discussion. And we are very honored to have our MLA, Mr. Arvind Limbavali, join us. Thank you very much, sir. Mahadevpura has been in the news. It may not have been your doing at all, but it has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. And I hope, sir, with all your efforts, you will be pushing the case for larger investment in various areas. And the report that we will provide will only strengthen your hands to ask for more investments in Mahadevpura, which is the lifeline with so much of economic activity happening in that area. So let me take the first question to our MLA himself. Sir, I don't know if you joined when I did mention that one of the zones where the dissatisfaction level was very high with civic amenities was Mahadevpura. And therefore, that brings me to the question, sir, what difficulty do you find in getting allocation for funds to be invested in Mahadevpura zone? If you could give us a little brief, and what is it that we can do with this survey? Will it strengthen your hands to push the government to make more investments?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I didn't see or heard about your presentation, but
Right.
I'm directly, when I joined, the first question is to me. Since I become MLA from that area, so in 2008, it was under BBMP. It was joined BBMP. Hello.
We lost him.
Fixing his laptop.
Okay.
Maybe, Reti, I'm leaving tonight.
So maybe, RK, maybe you can also, since you're in that zone, maybe you can also make some points, and we will get Mr. As soon as Mr. Limbavali is back, we'll get him back.
So I'm sure, Mr. Limbavali will also speak the same thing, and Anjali is here, who's also fellow, who's suffering from Mahadevpura zone and Whitefield in particular. I think, see, Mahadevpura zone's problems are a little bit, we have to look at differently. It is the only zone in whole of BBMP which is completely unplanned. Jayanagar is planned, Indiranagar is planned, Malleshwaram is planned, everything is planned in the city. Actually, Bangalore, Jayanagar was one of the first colonies which were planned in the whole of country. Now, till Mahadevpura zone came, till I think IT boom came, and when the builder and politician and official nexus came about, they did away with the planning. So let me just give you a little bit context. So 2000, the outer ring road came. Now, ideally, government knew that it is going to be an IT corridor because government has decided that. And that's how they created this. Like Noida or like even Jayanagar, they would have acquired 10,000, 20,000 hectares, whatever it is, from the farmers directly, done the planning, created the infrastructure, roads and everything, and then auctioned the plots. But what will happen in that case, the farmer will get good price from the government. He will not be at the mercy of the builders and their goons for negotiation. Farmer would have got good price. Government would have put with that money, government would have built the infrastructure and recovered the money by auctioning the plots to the builders. But who would have lost? Builder would have lost because he would have to pay a higher price. Because it will be a developed land, but the infrastructure, everything will be done properly. Unfortunately, this did not happen. From 2000 till today, this whole area, builders went ahead by hook or crook, managed to get the land from the farmers, and they decided to build whatever. You'll be shocked that there's not a single road. New road has come after 2000, after ORR in whole of Mahadevpura. Not a single road. And the population has gone from less than 50,000 or 1 lakh to close to around 10-12 lakhs. That is the people living. But then there are people, around 20 lakh people, who use the outer ring road and work in these areas, EPIP, Whitefield and all that. So Bangalore was a planned city, but Mahadevapura was unplanned because of corruption and political babu and the nexus of the builders. This was by design, and everybody knows about it because Mahadevapura has funded whole of Karnataka and Bangalore elections all these years, because only two ways the money could come was the money from the land, illegal money, which is in Bangalore and Mahadevapura specifically. No other area land prices have gone so high. And the second was, of course, Bellary, which is the mining. This is the genesis of the problem of Mahadevapura. Now, Mahadevapura was simply left to the mercy of builders who colluded with the politicians and bureaucrats and got the lands and decided whatever they wanted. Now, this is essentially now we are trying to fix when the horse is already bolted. So Mahadevapura's problems are the creation of mismanagement, misgovernance, and corruption. Now, whatever is left of it, we can try to fix it a little bit, but Mahadevapura will never become a proper planned city or the area like Noida or even Jayanagar, Indiranagar, or Maleshwara will not become. So this is the genesis of course, Mr. Limbawali, when he came in 2008, since then we've been working together. I think one of the MLAs who always went and fought for maximum money for Mahadevapura, he has done that. And a lot of money has come. Question is, problems are so huge. As I told, from after 2000, not a single road has been made in Mahadevapura. No new road has been made. Then how much can you, fix? It is almost like a band-aid. It's not happening. And that's my prognosis of the problem in Mahadevapura.
Sir, Mr. Limbawali, if you're back, maybe would you like to answer that question? Because what is coming out in the survey is that one of the, and since it is 8,400 people across the city, we would say it is quite representative. And therefore, if it's coming out that the civic amenities in Mahadevapura are very poor, in spite of having some very, very good companies situated there, we realized that most of it was private development and no urban planning. So maybe you could tell us what your challenges are in getting allocations for investment, which is substantially possibly more than some of the other locations.
Yeah. Are you hearing me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. As R.K. Mishraji has rightly pointed out, some lines I heard about the Mahadevapura. It was disconnected in between. The issue is, as he rightly pointed out, it is not a planned area. 2006, this Mahadevapura has been merged into BBMP. BMP become a BBMP. 110 villages and also 7 Nagar Panchayats, that is Nagar Sabha, we will call it in Kannada, municipal areas, and 2 Pattan Panchayats. And Mahadevapura is consisting of Mahadevapura Nagar Sabha, then 31 villages of 110, and apart from that, I have got 11 Gram Panchayats. This is the combination of Mahadevapura Assembly. Obviously, because of the ITPL and KPTO in that area, the area is rapidly growing. If you see the KTPO or ITPL area, it is well planned and companies are established there. And in entire other parts of my constituency, if you go to the ring road, there is no limit for the construction. So on the ring road, how many companies are there? And if you go to the Sarjapura road, there are much more companies are coming now. Already existing companies are there. And if you go to the rural part also, there are software companies coming on that area. In recent one of the Intel meetings, I requested the companies, especially the private builders who are building the tech parks, purchasing the land from the private people and taking the permission from the concerned authorities and building their tech parks as they wish. And how the traffic will be on that roads. Where is the roads? If I do good road also, if I cannot widen, and recently when Yediyurappa became a chief minister this time, I took him to Orca, one of the meetings organized by Ravi Kumar and R.K. Mishraji. He has sanctioned the money for the alternative roads. That only Madhepura is doing the CTP roads now in entire Bengaluru. Not yet completed, but roads are under construction. And the other reason is this term. If you see, obviously I belongs to Bharatiya Janata Party. The coalition government of 14 months, they didn't give the priority for this area. Obviously, this politics will be there. Before that, 5 years, Congress government was there. I got little, very less development fund for my constituency. It is all in record. I usually publish the book before I go for a next election. When I elected in 2008, 2013, before going to the election, I published in detail, that is a Janahita book, and distributed to the citizens. And same thing I did in 2018 also. Now it is in my website, what are the works are sanctioned. I was telling that 14 months has gone. After that, unfortunately, pandemic started. So 2 years of COVID-19 has killed us, and there was no development in entire Bangalore, not only in entire Bangalore, even in the entire nation. And apart from that, recently, since from last year and this year, calamity has happened. There was heavy rain in our area. The fortunate thing from this is, wherever the encroachment was there, we started the removing of the encroachments. Earlier, the lakes were not, if you see in the entire Bangalore, maximum lakes are saved in my constituency. If you count BBMP as well as rural, there are 32 lakes in my constituency in BBMP area and 37 lakes in rural part of, that is Gram Panchayat area. All lakes are protected and because of the heavy rain, all lakes are full now. So connectivity for the lake is the stormwater drains. That is a missing issue. And recently we have started the encroachment removal. We are facing the problem among the people, as well as there is an excess between authorities and also some builders. So I recently said the government was saying, some ministers were saying, this is the fault of the enforcement also done by the software companies, ITBTs. I said it is not the ITBT, it is the builders who have built the buildings and rented it out, leased it out to the companies. They did the mistakes. I recently went almost all the places where the water was blocked and inspected. In some places, we have removed the encroachment. After that, the water is drained out. And now we started other areas. I have identified about 46 places of this stormwater drain in our constituency, where the earlier we used to do because of the financial crunch. As I always say in the house and outside the assembly also, Madhepura is contributing more tax for state government for GST as well as the BBMP. So we need more share in that. So because they say it is a slowly developing area because it is recently merged into BBMP in 2008, and the combination also earlier I said 100 and among the 110 villages, 31 villages, those Kaveri water pipeline is finished recently, and UGD line work is going on because of BESCOM also doing the undercable work, because all these activities go into under the ground. So because of that, they have dug the roads and inside the ward roads also, inside the locality of Mahadevpura area. And because of that, in the meantime, rain started. And now maximum money has been comparatively to the last year, last government. Maximum money has been given to Mahadevpura now, but it is not sufficient. I know that. So we need more grants for the development of this area. And we have to change the face of Mahadevpura from village to cosmopolitan city. That is a big challenge for us. And I think I'm making it, definitely I'm making use of this heavy rain. Recently, the proposal has been sent from the BBMP to the Chief Minister for construction of the stormwater drains, apart from the 150 crores which already tendered, and 174 crores they are giving for the stormwater drain construction, and also they will give some money for the which is already broken roads or damaged roads in the rain hit area. They are giving the grants for that also, and it is not sufficient. I know that. So Mahadevpura needs special grant. And also, I will fight for that. And if you see 2000 from RK is here and Anjali is also here. Anjali never say good things about me. That is okay. But since from 2008, since if you see the changes in Mahadevpura, there was in the KPTO and ITPL area also, there was no street lights. We are fighting for that. This was the situation in those days. And now the lot of changes have been done. And definitely there is unrest among the people because of the recent rain. It has, and second thing is the heavy rain of this year. We never expected so much rain. And the second reason for the flooding is about 80% of the Bengaluru rainwater will come to Mahadevpura. Why? Because Mahadevpura is lower side, east side of the Bangalore, and it is a lower side. Mahadevpura, Vartur Lake and Kelemallappa Shetty Lake, both lakes will receive 80%, 70-80% of the Bengaluru rainwater in those lakes, and from there it will enter to Dakshina Pinakini. And other parts of the Bengaluru, there also lakes were full, and lakes are very less in those parts of other parts of Bangalore, and water comes into this area. And third reason is what I used to say is there is no roof water harvesting. So all the water, because earlier days this was a irrigation land, now it has become a concrete jungle. So all the water pour into the buildings. It will come to the roads or drain, and rain and lakes are full. Because of that, flooding has happened. And the major reason is enforcement, which we started removal of the enforcement. Maybe these are the reasons. And definitely I can see in a year or two, Mahadevpura, most of the issues, I'm not saying 100% will be perfect, but most of the issues will be given priority from the government.
Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you. I have many more questions, but I will go to the other panelists now. Ashwin Mahesh, Thank you for joining us. Bomanahalli is one area which has, in our survey, fared way better than some of the others. Of course, none of the areas are really showing great level of satisfaction, but relatively they have performed better. So, Ashwin, what would you say would be the next steps to ensure that we have this kind of equitable distribution? Because it's always a challenge. You have a Mahadevpura zone, which is very poorly developed in terms of various amenities because it has grown very fast. Other places have grown relatively slowly. So the rate of investment required in Mahadevpura should be much larger than the rate of investment required in some of the other areas. But everybody will be fighting for equal amount of funds to be allocated to them. So Ashwin, do you have some thoughts on how to resolve some of these allocation issues? And how do we look at urban planning in an area which is already fully built, significantly fully built? How do you retrofit?
Revati, thank you for inviting me. I'm speaking, as you know, in this panel on behalf of Aam Aadmi Party. So I want to say first that I'll take a few minutes to properly recognize the problem. You can't actually go forward if you state the problem itself incorrectly. In my judgment, this is what's going on. There's a lot of scarcity and mediocrity. Every year, 300,000 people move to the city, which means you need 75,000 houses, at least for these 300,000 people to live. BBMP and BDA together don't issue more than 20,000 housing permits each year. The outer regions of the city need massive road infrastructure development. They're just not anywhere close to achieving the extent and quality that is needed. So throughout the city, in service after service, there is scarcity and mediocrity. The question, when you asked, and why is there scarcity and mediocrity? Because both of them feed corruption. The people are left desperate because they're not able to get what they want, or when something is made available, it is of such poor quality that it crumbles in no time. And in that desperation, they do various things, and it feeds corruption throughout the city. This is the root of the problem in various sectors. It's not just about roads, it's in housing, it's in water supply, it's in waste management. Again and again and again, you will encounter scarcity and mediocrity linked to corruption. Now, you could say, and one other thing that helps all of this stay covered up is data secrecy. Nothing of what we need to know about the management of the city is in the public domain. You don't actually know who's building these roads, what the contracts are, whether terrible contractors are being awarded contracts again and again, when were they supposed to do these things, at what cost, how often. None of this stuff is actually known to people. Who is paying property tax, who's not paying property tax, what kind of violations are going on. These are all things that should be discoverable in 2 weeks if the data was in the public domain. People themselves know this, but the data is not in the public domain. So you've got these 4 things: scarcity, mediocrity, corruption, data secrecy, which are all feeding the beast again and again and again. When you ask the MLA about what was being done, he mentioned a few things that are being done. Now, no one disputes that some of those things are being done, but you have to ask a more important question. Is this quick enough, adequate enough, and of good quality? Anyone can say we are spending 174 crores on this, we are developing 34 lakes and so on and so forth. Of course, that's true. But what is the speed at which you need to do these things? What is the quality that you need to achieve in doing these kinds of things? Because if we don't address speed and quality and adequacy, we're always going to be in a situation where our standard explanation will be that it is being done. Some of the things, the speed at which they are being done, those projects will be completed in 2400, not in the next 3 years, right? We need to create walkable footpaths on 17,000 roads. How many do you know are being done? 15, 20. If you do a 15 a year, you'll take several centuries to finish that thing. The issue is not that these things are not being done, but they need to be done much faster in much better quality. The second thing, another thing, what is the legislative response to all this? Now, everybody that you talk to asks about, what are the problems, what are the deficits, what should we be doing? But frankly, there is a huge legislative vacuum. What is stopping the government from figuring out how to conduct an election on time? Is it so difficult? I mean, the Supreme Court has said that for administrative reasons, you cannot keep extending, the schedule of municipal elections. Okay, you need to do ward reservation and delimitation. Okay, you need to, decide whether it's going to be 1 city, 2 cities, 5 zones, all of that. When the term of the council is ending, what's the difficulty with doing all of these things before the end of the term? And if some legislation has to be passed, what's the difficulty with passing that legislation? I feel there is, unfortunately, a lot of the questions that we ask our legislative, representatives are civic. The question to really ask is, what has the legislature been doing? And when RK spoke, and I'm sure you'll hear this again and again, lots of people say, well, there's a nexus between the builders, the barbers, and the netas, right? Well, everybody knows which netas also. Many of them have been around. It's not, we've reached a point now where it is not credible for the people who have presided over the problem to say that these are the solutions and we are going to rapidly and correctly implement them. If that was true, they would have done a lot of this by now. I don't think it's credible. The reason they don't like citizen participation, we need to understand. Citizen participation can accelerate a lot of this stuff. One of the reasons why in some parts of the city things are a little better is because citizens are more engaged in those parts of the city. They're more, for whatever historical reasons, people are able to push their local representatives a little better, push the local bureaucracy a little better. And there things do happen in an accelerated way. But by and large, the system resists citizen participation. And the system resists citizen participation because if you get too close to it, you will see exactly what's going on. And if you see what's going on, you won't vote for these people. And therefore, it's better to keep them at arm's length and not let them get close enough to observe what is actually going on. So this is the main reason why citizens' participation is resisted. Mahadevapura outlying areas. Today, after this delimitation, about 60% of the wards are outside the ring road. Take the case of Mahadevapura. This is all done on the basis of the 2011 census, by the way, right? Now, everybody says if you use the 2011 census, you're going to get an underrepresentation of wards in the outlying areas, even after the delimitation exercise is complete. Earlier, a place like Mahadevapura might have had 8 wards or 9 wards. Now it will have 13 or 14. Bommanhalli would have had 8. Now it has 13 or 14. Yes, these areas have got more wards, but this is still based on the 2011 census. If it is done properly, they would have got 17 and 18 wards each, because the most of the 300,000 people per year who are getting added to the city all of this is happening in the outlying wards. 3 million people have not been accounted for in the delimitation exercise at all, because the delimitation is based on the 2011 data. You could argue that the 2021 census is not complete, but there's a way the delimitation should have been done, in my opinion. Since we are committed to zone level governance of the metropolitan city, the number of wards should have been decided zone level. So you say, if for Mahadevapura zone, we will create as many wards as necessary for the administration of that zone. For Bommanhalli, we'll create as wards necessary for the administration of that zone, keeping in mind that if we need to have more wards to represent no more than 30,000 people in each zone, it could have been done. This idea that the entire city should have one thumb rule of population per ward is completely going to backfire. For the next 10 years, Mahadevapura is going to have only 13 or 14 wards. By then, the population would be nearly 4 million different from what it was at the time of the ward formation. So we've done things that perpetuate scarcity. And as long as you keep doing things that perpetuate scarcity, any amount of bureaucratic response is not going to be enough. You have to first do things fast enough and well enough to catch up to them. And that's what's not happened.
Thanks, Mahesh. I think that is very succinct and very useful to hear. Let me now move on to Srinivas. Srinivas, you have a bird's eye view of all that is happening. Srinivas Alavalli from Janagraha, of all that has happened You have been an ardent proponent of ward committee meetings, pushing them and making people more active. You have seen the survey results. People still do not attend ward committee meetings. Only 63%. 63% of them said they are not attending ward committee meetings. So how do you get citizens more engaged so that they can, take a more engaged position in each one of these issues? Because it's citizen literacy on each one of these issues is also very, very important. Otherwise, you get responses which are very warped.
Yeah, thanks, Revati and B.PAC for doing this survey and bringing the voice of citizen to the world in a nice manner. I really appreciate that, and also thank you for having me here. It's good to also see some political leaders participating and elected representatives participating. It's not something that we often see in such forums. So thanks to you for making that happen. I'm very pleasantly surprised, frankly, to see the amount of interest that is the survey reflects on the ward committees. It's not something that I have seen in my experience dealing with ward committees in the last 3 years or so. It could also be nature of the survey. That is why I was looking at the methodology and the demographic of the people that were surveyed for this. Regardless, it is a good number. Remember that our population is 1.4 crore currently, or even if you take conservative estimate of 1 crore, 10% of that is 10 lakhs. If 10% of Bangalore people decide to descend on ward committee meetings, no BBMP office is big enough to hold them. So no ward committee meeting today has more than 10, 5, 15, 20. The biggest ward committee meetings have 25 citizens in them. And one of the most amazing things about Bengaluru is that despite COVID, despite council election not being held, the BBMP has continued the tradition of holding the ward committee meetings, unofficial, informal ward committee meetings in the absence of a chairperson, which is the councillor. By appointing a nodal officer, it was necessitated due to pandemic, because the council term ended right in the middle of the pandemic, if you recall. So they appointed nodal officers, and now the nodal officers are conducting the ward committee meetings. Holding of the elections is unfortunately not in the hands of BBMP. It is entirely controlled by the state government, which, like Ashwin mentioned and others have mentioned, is a complete travesty of justice and unconstitutional in my opinion. But that's a matter for the courts and the legal experts to settle, and they are not able to settle that in 2 years. So clearly the law is very weak. For a layman like me, I think the urban governance laws in this country are absolutely written in a bad manner, which is why they are not able to elect 3 of the biggest cities of India, New Delhi, Delhi, Mumbai, and Bengaluru, currently do not have a mayor. There is no other developed city country or even moderately middle income country without elections for the cities in, to my knowledge, or even in India. So this is a root of all problems. And then the decentralization of power, which is something that we keep on talking about, and it's become like such a boring topic that we, the political economy that we have, as RK talked about at the beginning. 2 constituencies finance the entire election of the state of Karnataka. I think all the answers can be found in that one statement. That itself is good enough to know what happened, why it happened, and why it cannot be fixed. That is the mother of all problems. If that's how we are going to conduct the affairs of governance in Karnataka, you forget Bengaluru, in every other city and village will have the same kind of problem. So we must, as public intellectuals or people that are care about Karnataka and Bengaluru, we must consider why that is, and have we given up on it, or are we going to do something about that? It's a very telling statement of the state of affairs. Coming back to ward committees, I'm absolutely elated to know that your survey at least shows that people trust that ward committees can make things happen. I would give the ward committees a score of 4 of 10 if I were to rate the current status of ward committees. 4 is 4 times bigger than 1 in my opinion. So I'm very happy about it being at 4, because it is a new institution. It's a unique institution that we are trying to nurture in this city, and across mayors, across commissioners, it continues. And initially, when the ward committees came in, the corporators were very reluctant and worried that they will be questioned and held accountable. But subsequently, they realized that these forums are actually good for them to interact with public and also show their good work and earn the public trust and win perhaps the next election. So that has been the journey of many corporators, and they will go on record telling you this. And that process is actually continuing in Bengaluru and Hubli Dharwad and many other cities that Janagraha is now working on. So ward committees is taking root in Karnataka, I can say with some amount of confidence, and long way to go. And ward committees will not be effective unless there is transparency of budgets. The city of Bengaluru's currently budget is around 10,000 crores. What does that mean to any person living in Hagadur or in Jayanagar or in Magadi Road? Nobody knows this answer. The numbers are always divided in terms of assembly consciences. The travesty of our accounting system is that the BBMP budget document, you will find AC number Madhavpura, AC number Jayanagara, AC number Rajaji Nagar. This is how projects are assigned, monies are assigned. And then you will immediately see some MLA saying, okay, because we are not the ruling party, we got less money. I actually don't understand any sound reason why BBMP budget should be allocated at assembly conscience level. We must question the Chief Minister and the Bengaluru Development Minister to stop this practice, and the BBMP Chief Commissioner of Courts. So fundamentally, when money is available to the ward committee, at a BBMP commissioner level, they have been doing a great job of trying to devolve powers and funds. Both functions and funds are being devolved thanks to the BBMP Act 2020, which is a step forward from what we heard earlier. Not great, and we are not happy with all of it, but definitely it empowered the zonal level decentralization. We now have IAS officers at each zone. And when the elections happen, not only we will have a BBMP council at Hudson Circle in the main BBMP council, but there is also going to be zonal councils in Madhavpura, in Rajarashwari Nagar, and each of the 8 zones, which is a bigger, better way of administering Bengaluru, where political voice can be heard within the zone. So I look forward to that happening. Similarly, the budget and the transparency at a zonal level is being attempted at this point of time. And ward committees have been allocated 1 crore per ward, with a split of 30 lakhs for potholes, 30 lakhs for footpaths, and 40 lakhs for drain desilting. So this amount of money is currently officially allocated to each of the wards, meaning ward committees, to spend within their ward. We often, just yesterday, some media friends were asking me, the court has ordered the commissioner to fix the remaining 221 potholes. What do you think about it? I said there are more such court rulings than the number of potholes we have. Because so many times we keep seeing court giving such dictats, but we all know that that's not practical and nobody is going to fix those potholes. And while they fix half of them, more will come, and nobody can ever count the potholes. But the potholes can actually be counted at a ward level. At least the road quality can be measured at a ward level, and there is money available at the ward level. So if people actually come together at a ward committee level and then collaborate with the engineer and other officials of the ward, there is actually a better chance of improving the quality of roads. There are very fundamental issues with the way the roads are made, the quality standards. Some of the experts have commented on it for a long time, and those are things that we need to fix at a city level. But from an operations and maintenance level, it's all at the ward level. The confusion about which road belongs to who also need to be removed. There are too many things without a clear owner in our city. BBMP, we keep saying BBMP, but BBMP doesn't control half the things that we experience in our life. It doesn't control water, it doesn't control sewage, it doesn't control the bus, it doesn't control electricity. Lakes are slowly coming back into BBMP. So while we elect only to BBMP, BBMP is not responsible for many other urban services that are provided to the citizens. So this is a huge reform that we need, where all these parastatal agencies like the PESCOMs and the BWSSPs and the BMTC must be reporting into BBMP. In Mumbai, for example, the bus service is called the BEST, BEST, and BEST is run by the BMC, Municipal Corporation of Mumbai, not in Bengaluru. So when we do structural changes like this and empower the mayor and the councillor along with the ward committees, I see a long-term hope for Bengaluru. I think good work has been done to some extent. But we all know that the explosion of population is so much that even if we had the most decentralized systems, without long-term planning and affordable housing and land use planning, all of these systems and apparatus will fall apart. We just don't have the Metropolitan Planning Committee. In this many years, one of the biggest cities of the world, most favored destination for people from all continents of the world, does not have a plan. Currently, we are running without a master plan. And that's really a shame. And we should all work together to bring that back on the agenda and bring bodies like MPC and BMLTA up in the functioning way, and then getting the elections done and making sure that the mayor and at the zonal level elected representatives are holding officials accountable. That is the purpose of democracy and urban governance. And surveys like this will definitely make people think twice about what we want to govern, how we want to govern ourselves going forward. Thanks, Revati.
Thank you, Srinivas. I will now move to Mr. Vishwanath, who has been talking about the issues of water. And we know how poorly serviced the water issue is across the city. Only 50%, less than 50% of the population gets piped water. And we all know the issues on stormwater drains and lakes. We have seen what has happened over the last 2-3 weeks. How do you see that this situation that we find ourselves in can be improved, given where we are today with our built environment and the way we have encroached? Is just demolishing, mindlessly going and demolishing the answer? Because a lot of people who invested in these properties did not know that these were on encroached lands. So they also have, we are taking away the hard-earned money from a lot of people. It's not that there is a narrative today building up that these are the rich people who went and encroached. I don't think that narrative is correct at all. These were all middle-class people who worked very hard and got good jobs, earned, and they thought they built a good house for themselves, or they took offices on rent, and suddenly they find they're all on encroached lands. So the transparency of information on many of these is not there. Can we put the maps out there so people do not take these properties on rent or do not buy these properties? So automatically, it's a disincentive for builders to start building on such. The past is a separate issue. I'd like you to discuss the past and a little bit on the future as well. How transparent we can make all these maps so that people can be more educated when they go and buy property or rent property, either for commercial or residential purposes.
So Revati, really tough political questions. So I'll just sort of take off from where the previous speaker spoke, and I'll trade on this lightly because it's a very sensitive issue at this particular point of time, simply because of the immediacy of the problem that we faced very recently. So everybody's emotions are high. So let me just sort of step back and say what I need to articulate on the water and sanitation front. So it's very interesting that your survey suggested that water supply was the second major concern for citizens. Sewerage was fifth as a major concern, and public toilets was also a major concern. I think that's very important to recognize that these will continue to remain concerns and go on in the future. It will also be a challenge. But also let me step back. This city is a livelihoods engine. It provides livelihoods to millions. And as many other surveys have been showing, and your survey will also show that the workforce participation is really high for the city. Employment ratios are very high. This is an economic engine, as we all know. It's not only a state level economic engine, but a national level and an international level economic engine. So then comes the question, if it's a livelihoods engine and an economic engine, is it getting enough attention in terms of both planning and infrastructure? The obvious answer is no. So how do we get that done? And some of these are all commonsensical. We also need to revisit our past in terms of what we have done intellectually. For example, the BMRDA. We no longer should look at Bangalore as the city alone or the BBMP alone. We have enough problems as such, but we must look at the larger BMRDA area. And we must think and get aware of Nelamangalas, Anekals, Devanhallis, and Sarjapuras of the world, now because they're the future Bangalore in the coming 10 to 15 years. We must think of that. That was thought of in a structure plan which was developed by the BMRDA. And the structure plan is an infrastructure plan on which the land use plan or the master plan can be overlaid. And we simply forgot the structure plan. We didn't do anything about it. Can we dig out that structure plan quickly, look at how relevant it is now, and look at what we can imagine the BMRDA to be and strengthen that at that scale? As Srinivas was pointing out, we have to look at the Metropolitan Planning Council co-terminus with the BMRDA area. The Metropolitan MPC should be looking at BMRDA area, which is what we need to do in terms of democratic decentralization, accountability, as well as structure plan thinking. The second thing that really worries me is institutional capabilities. Do we have the institutions with the human resources, the knowledge base, and the human resource power to be able to address the challenges of a city which will likely be 20 million? I think the answer is no. I think we are frayed at the edges. We're already struggling. Many of the people who are in the water supply and sanitation sector put in 12 to 14 hours and they're simply firefighting. There's no ability to be able to step back, design and plan for the future. So we need to look at our institutional capabilities and really strengthen our institutions. How are they democratized is a second question. I believe that there's an answer for a specialized institution to exist to deliver water supply and sanitation, at the same time to be democratically accountable at one level to the MPC and at other level to the ward committees. For example, there's no reason why at a ward committee level, we cannot discuss with the BWSSB how many households there are at the ward, how many of them have connections to water supply and sanitation, and how soon can universal connection be obtained, right? So universal connection, universal coverage being the goal, this should be democratically discussed at the ward committee level, and the strategic plan for the city, for the BMRDA area, should be discussed at that scale. We are terribly underinvested on water and sanitation and sewerage. We are now running the Kaveri fifth phase, which will bring 750 to 775 million liters per day. But I'm afraid that that demand is already existing. So it will just cater to existing demand. It will not cater to the future demand. So we must be thinking of the next phase of water supply investment. We have done a remarkable job in the past 2-3 years, thanks to the courts and the NGT, in terms of investment in sewage treatment plants. Right now, we have more capacity in sewage treatment plants than the sewage that reaches them. But we are completely underinvested in the sewerage network, rehabilitation, and in new sewage lines. So we must think of how do we bring in investments there, not only in the central area, but also in the peripheral area. The Madhepura MLA made a very eloquent point as to the challenges that was being faced. But do we have a structure plan, a stormwater drainage plan, a sewerage plan, and a water supply plan for the future Madhepura, right? That is crucial before investments start to go in. And the remarkable work that the task force that they have set up is doing in terms of the immediacy of cleaning up Rajkalways and many other issues by the flood should position itself in terms of a future plan. There are other things. Once we get institutional capabilities right, we must look at investments. I think we are terribly underinvested, and those investment levels need to be ramped up for this future city of ours. Plus, there need to be an efficient, quality, non-corrupt based investment, right? It cannot be just merely investments which are leaking. We need to invest in robust systems of efficiency. One of the things that we need to draw attention and we have to learn is Bangalore is hugely groundwater dependent, especially the peripheral areas are completely dependent on borewells or tankers. We need to quickly understand what the aquifers are in these peripheries and how groundwater can be regulated, managed, and we should draw up a groundwater management plan in addition to the pipe water supply investments that we are going to do. We are completely ignorant about groundwater. It's completely unregulated and it's Wild West terrain. We need to figure that out. We need to look at sewage systems, decentralized sewage systems set up by the BWSSB in these new areas very quickly, possibly adjacent to lakes. These are spaces that are available, but of the sufficient quality to be able to feed the lakes. The lakes and the Rajkalway systems themselves, in my opinion, have been designed as previously as irrigation systems. A modern stormwater drainage system can learn from those lake and Rajkalway system, but it has to be way above in terms of capacities to be able to manage the kind of rains that we are going to get in our urban areas, the kind of runoff that is going to occur here, and the intensity of rainfall that will change with the climate crisis and the urban heat island effect. So we need to learn from the past, but we have to design for the future. And the last point that which emerges from your study, which is what one would be trying to understand from a decentralized level of the study itself, are the well-serviced areas of the city speaking differently from the peripheral areas of the city? Are the low-income areas or the informal settlements speaking a different voice from the major mainstream voices, right? Because there will be the clue in terms of universality, in terms of social justice, in terms of investments, which will reach those who are the least served, right? So when we do a hierarchy of service needs, we should begin with those who are most underserved and work our way to those who have the capabilities to be able to manage services for themselves to a large extent, right? So we'll have to disaggregate the study and understand it and do that from a social justice perspective. Public toilets, I think, is a universal problem. Inner city, outer city. How is it that a modern city like Bangalore cannot solve the basic issue of providing enough and frequent, enough number of public toilets which are functional, clean, and decent to all the populace, not just the rich and the middle class, but also the low-income populace? It's mind-boggling. I think we need to put a special attention to that and get that going all across the city once again, because we've tried attempts in the past and failed. We must learn from those failed attempts and push things forward. The last point that I want to leave with you is that these surveys are very important from a directional perspective and should be repeated in a more detailed fashion in local areas so that we learn local problems and local issues and try and address them locally. Because this is a conglomeration of 20 cities. It's not just one city now. So your survey needs to be carried out in Mahadevpura, it should be carried out in Anikal, it should be carried out everywhere in a more detailed, granular fashion, and then the problems identified are addressed. That's my sort of contribution in addition to what Ashwin and Srinivas and the MLA said and other people have spoken.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vishwanath. I think we'll move on to Anjali Saini. Anjali has been working with the government, local government there on behalf of Whitefield Rising. We would like to hear their voices. And I must say that this once again repeat that this particular survey has nothing to do with the recent incidents. Our survey was done during the period February to June, but the issues that are coming out very clear that a lot of private development has happened in Mahadevpura. Government has sort of abdicated its responsibility, and MLAs are struggling to get investment into the city where government should have actually done a lot of urban planning. Anjali, I'd like to hear some views based on the survey results. It's quite obvious that citizens are very, very troubled by what is happening. Would like to hear from you.
Thank you, Revati. And I think this was a great survey, and it's amazing that the number of responses was really good. And so it is representative, and I should thank B.PAC for, persisting in having such kind of data put together. It really puts perspective even for all of us who are in the area actually. So that was great. And I think the focus on citizen awareness, and I agree with Srinivas, I think some level of awareness about ward committees has improved. Say in the last 3 to 4 years, people didn't know who a corporator was, what he did, and all that kind of thing. So I think that citizen awareness building is very important part of development for a city. The 5 points that have come up as the issues in across the city, and I would say they also represent Mahadevpura. Although in Mahadevpura, I think the one additional point was streetlights compared to roads, water, the solid waste management, sewage management, and public toilets. These are your 5 points. I think I'm not as pessimistic as RK to say that nothing can be done and now we're all kind of doomed in Mahadevpura. I think there's a lot that can be done. But a lot of it has to do, as Ashwin rightly pointed out, there is scarcity and there's mediocrity. There is a lot of mediocrity at the ward level. The officers are, they try hard, but it's not good enough. I think a city like Bangalore, which is not only contributing a large percentage of the GDP of the state, of the city, of the country, deserves a lot more attention from everybody concerned. And all of us are really proud to be in Bangalore. The quality of life is great here. A lot has to do with nature. It's got good weather, it's got talent, it's got a real concentration of a lot of intellectual power, but nobody in the government, right from the ward level up to the central level, is giving it the importance that it deserves. And it's not like we want to be like privileged, but I think that we can contribute double of what would be possible for this city. We are not reaching our full potential. And the legislators, the corporators must take pride in the city. They do not take pride in the city. This is our biggest problem today. If you take pride in the city and you get beyond just thinking about your votes and that I need to raise money for the election and all that, we've done all that. As Mr. Limbavali said, 2008, it became part of BBMP, Mahadevpura. Now it's been 14 years. Even Ramji did 14 Saal Banvas. After that, something, Diwali has to come. So we need to really do something special. And I want to thank Mr. Limbavali because we want to talk about the ward committees. He says I don't say good things about him, but I'm going to say this thing. It is because of him today that Mahadevpura was one of the first constituencies, and Srinivas knows this, that actually had ward committees. We've had ward committees for the last 5-6 years. They're not functioning the way we want them to. They're not doing everything we want them to. But definitely he was very supportive, and that did help a lot in getting it going. But now that it's got going, and in fact, I attended one for Whitefield Ward just today, I want to say that we really have to stop this sort of kind of feeling that somehow you're going to get some political backlash or something out of a ward committee meeting. As Srinivas said, corporators are realizing that this is actually positive. And so what my request to our honorable MLA and to all MLAs of this city is, stop interfering in the ward governance, in the city governance. Please allow officials to function. We do have many good officers. There are many, many good officers. They can achieve a lot if they are allowed to and they are empowered. As far as Mahadevpura is concerned, I would say we have been, and I think now RK has also come around to that thought, we have very different requirements, right from, when our buses are required, from, what is our rush hour, what is not our rush hour. And I think if we make it a separate municipal court with a separate set of goals, that would be ideal. The other issue that has really affected our performance as a constituency is this concept of going back 10 years for the census. We really needed about 30 to 40 wards, not even 20, what Ashwin is saying. Raja Rajeshwari Nagar and the other zones have wards which are 1 square kilometer, 2 square kilometers, which is very manageable. You can manage your footpath, you can manage your SWM, you can manage everything in that. But we have 14 square kilometer ward, 10 square kilometer ward. Even now, Whitefield ward is just huge. We have to decentralize. We must empower people at the local level. There has to be transparency in the budget. Citizens are not getting any information about what the budget is, how it's being spent. Now Srinivas is saying there's 30 lakhs for this, 30 lakhs for the footpath, 40 lakhs for desilting. But at the ward level, that information is not exchanged. I think coming to like what Vishwanath said, why don't we have public toilets? I mean, I'll tell you personally, I've been struggling with this in Mahadevpura. What is it with our people, with our officials, with our politicians, with our people that they don't understand you need a public toilet where you are public? Why can't, it's such a simple thing to get it going. It shouldn't be such a big deal that I have to make a project. I must get, PPP funding and all this kind of stuff. So I feel we're just like all over the map. We need a professional organization. The municipal corp has to be run by professionals. It cannot be run just like a village where, somebody says, I want a tube well here, I want a park here. No, it has to be planned at least now. And there has to be a lot of citizen engagement so that there is accountability, which I feel has been missing to a large extent. And lastly, I want to talk about, what we talk about, the corruption. It is definitely there. Like we'll take our solid waste management. Why is our solid waste management not working? Despite a huge investment, Bangalore has a higher investment in solid waste management as a budget allocation than even the largest of cities in India. And the reason is, I'll tell you, in Mahadevpura today, our dry waste contractor has not been paid for 1 year, 2 months. These are people who are the poorest of the poor. Why are you not paying them? Why do we at the ward level, citizens have to follow up? It's just not acceptable. This kind of dereliction of duty. And as Revati, you rightly said, they are abdicating their responsibility to this area. And not just for Mahadevpura, I'm sure it's happening in the other wards, because I see garbage dumps and all this kind of thing happening even outside of Mahadevpura. Why is the government not able to get its act together in the simplest of things? If you don't have a dry waste center, you're not going to be able to put out the dry waste. It's like simple logical things like that. Why is everything a struggle? We cannot keep accepting this type of situation. And politicians have to realize that they are actually holding themselves back. If they are making money out of the city, they could make double actually if they give the infrastructure for the whole city to grow in a planned way and give them the facilities that they deserve. So we really need to have the whole municipality professionally run. And I feel if it's professionally run, even things like, the coordination between BBMP, BWSSB, it can happen. Today at the ward committee meeting, I saw that there was a lot of positive energy from BWSSB. There was positive energy from the major roads engineer. He was listening to people. They are keen to solve it, but they need to be empowered. The budget needs to be decentralized. And that's when things are going to start working. So that in summary is my response to the survey.
Thank you. I'm really mindful of time. I was wondering, how do we fill up 1.5 hours? Is it too long a time? But I can see that with the kind of enthusiasm with which people have been talking, we could go on for more time, but I'm very mindful. And I would like to give our only MLA who has been able to come today, in spite of the busy assembly session. I really want to thank you, sir. It shows how much commitment you have. You have not missed any session that we have invited you for. Please, if you can give us some closing remarks, and then we will, you have heard all that citizens have got to say. I know Mahadevpura has not scored very well in city level services, but this report should strengthen your hand actually to go and demand more money for this particular area. And how will you be able to spend a little bit more on proper urban planning? I know a lot of it has already been built up, but if we can, whatever is left, if we can do some retrofitted planning, it looks silly, but if we can do it, can we improve the quality of life of people? Because this is an area which is generating significant amount of economic activity and a lot of tax collections happening from here. It's a huge revenue generating zone.
Yeah, madam. I thank you invited me for this discussion, and I need your feedback also. What are the survey has been done, so that I can improve my area. So as Ashwin said, it is a high time, because this is all things should be decentralized and should be managed by the corporator. And it is my constituency is a huge constituency. When Anjali knows it, when I became an MLA, it was electoral was 2,67,000. Now it has reached to 5,90,000 electoral there. Voters are there. This is the rapid growth of, as Ashwin and both Anjali has pointed out, it has been done, the decentralized, delimitation has been done on the basis of 2011 census. We have crossed 2020 already. The census is not out because of the pandemic, and it could have been come out. As Anjali pointed out, the area in Rajarajeshwari, I think Rajarajeshwari is also having more voters in each ward. They are having 14 wards now. In Mahadevpura, we are from 8 to 13 wards. If it could be 21 census, it could be 16 or 17 wards. This is all done by this implementation of this works. Whatever the suggestions have come for the good administration along with the ward committees. So it is not the legislative duty. Of course, I am doing it because I am elected representative. It is my duty when the corporation elected members are not existing. I'm bringing more grants from the state government also to develop this area. And my area is not only in BBMP, BDA area is there, as rightly Vishwanath said. I'm unable to give the water to the BDA area, where the apartments and people, new layouts have come up there. So the Kaveri is restricted to BBMP only. That is 110 villages. Among that, 31 villages we are giving the water. And earlier we have given the water for CMC area. So there is a heavy demand for local rural area also. And there is a BMRD area also in my constituency. This needs to be, I need to be look after all those things, all those requirements. And what Anjali said about you also said in the last meeting about the public toilets. We have identified the places because of the pandemic, and also followed by the this heavy rain. We could not start the work, and definitely will start those. We have identified some places already, and if she wants, I'll send those list to Anjali so that we can work on that. And always a request for a PPP model in my constituency. My very bad experience is with the CSR of these companies. One or two companies are come forward to develop, invest the CSR in my constituency. Apart from the one or two companies, nobody is ready to invest their CSR in my area. So where they are working. So this is the fate of PPP, Anjali. Please, if you have any good contact, you please explore those contacts and please tell me. I can also contribute from government side or MLA fund. Definitely will improve in that area wherever it is needed. Now I'm concentrating the CSR for pure drinking water in rural part of constituency as well as urban area also. And most of the works will start now because rain is just now stopped. We don't know when it comes again. And last year it stopped in the month of December. So this was the situation. Most of the things what the panelists are discussed here, I agree for those things. And definitely I agree, Ashwin said about the elections. It should happen. whatever may be, whichever may be coming for the for ruling of the BBMP, that is immaterial. The election should happen because the operator will head the ward, and under his leadership, as Srinivas said, ward committees will in Gram Panchayats, the system is there, Srinivas, because we used to conduct a Gram Sabha, where the citizens will participate and suggest their works or grievances there, and will take up those issues. When we are doing it at a Gram Panchayat, why not at a corporation level, so ward level, as we are doing it very well in our area, and it is not decentralized properly because these zones are created, zonal commissioners are there. Unfortunately, for the approval of major works, it has to go to again chief commissioner. The zonal commissioner is not empowered. This is the situation. So when this discussion started politically, or I don't know the reason, because I quoted the example of Maharashtra. Mumbai has got a corporation and Thane has got another corporation. Such corporations are there in and around Mumbai. So same thing was with Delhi. There was 3 corporations. So such a fast growing, rapid growing city is Bangalore. We need to have a decentralized administration at least. If decentralized corporation come also, it's good. And at least now we have decentralized the administration. But we have not empowered the powers to the zonal commissioners or concerned respective officers. And one more thing Anjali said, because nowadays the ward committee is also having a more political influence. Anjali, we are going to face the corporation elections and aspirants from all the parties, not from my party only. They will definitely do the politics, with local level politics. We have to overcome that. After the corporation elections, it will get normal, and you should learn you should understand the feelings of the budding corporators or politicians. So on that basis, they do some politics. Don't worry about that. We are there to protect such things in my area. And at a large, what others say, we should not calculate as assembly-wise. The core area, outer area is different. As Ashwin said, it is very rapid growing areas, outer area, particularly where the software companies are existing. Not only software guys are living in my constituency, because of the growth of software companies were there, other jobs also created. The household mates are there. They are from different parts of the country. And also there are security people. There are many Pura Karmiks are there. And many other construction workers are there. We need to provide the houses for them. Temporarily, the builder used to give the shelter for them, which is unhygienic. All such challenges are there in front of us. And we need to see as a Bengaluru as a model. We should come out with the model city for the entire nation. It should be our other, my colleagues also should understand. They should not do the politics for getting a grant or anything else. They should see as a whole Bangalore should develop. That should be the attitude. And even this time I congratulate the Chief Minister in the answer recently in the House. He said about Bamnalli and Madhepura is worst hit from this rain. I'll give the priority to the Madhepura and Bamnalli area, zones. So I think he will concentrate to develop this area. So as well. So he not only for this area, in other areas also is concentrating for developing entire. And he said about also we need to comprehensive development of the entire city. As Srinivas or somebody has said, now the saturation point has come to Bangalore now. The satellite town should be developed. So if you go to the ring road, Revati madam, you cannot move in the peak hours. That much are there on the ring road. Why I suggested in Intel meeting, why don't you create a new city outside Bangalore and give all the facilities? And also I suggested, if you see the company big is coming, not the software company, cement company or sugar company, some companies, they will provide the housing also. They will provide the shelter for the laborers and good bungalows for the officers. That much concept should be implemented in the new city, or else where the companies are coming. Otherwise, the traffic is a big issue for Bangalore nowadays, and we need to concentrate all those things. And I want to say more issues, but because of the time constraint, definitely I will participate in another coming your meetings, and I need your feedback. Whatever the survey you have done, which area I need to improve in my area. I think R.K. Mishra ji and Ajali will definitely support those ideas and to implement those things, and definitely will bring more money. I am fighting with the state government and also bringing more grants to my constituency. In coming days, I can say it will be one of the model constituencies in coming days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think we are really running out of time, and there are some questions which have come up. So I will ask one of these questions not all questions can be taken up, because some of these questions are such that if I start talking about these questions, then this will take another 3 hours. So basically the question that I would like you to answer, Ashwin, is on urban terrace farming, surface rain, water harvesting, water needs. How can we look at all of these differently so that we can make some difference to where we are today? Today we are in a pathetic state regarding rainwater harvesting, whether it is stormwater drains. What are some of the things that you can think of?
The one thing you'll realize from today's discussion is that there are many people in the city who know the solutions. That's not the problem. The problem is not that we don't know the solutions. We have many people in different neighborhoods who know the solution. What we need is a system of asking them and putting them also partially in charge of implementing the solutions through the ward committees, through decentralized budgets, through decentralized powers, and so on and so forth. For each of the issues, whether it is water, whether it is transport, whether it is waste management, various people have previously given extensive recommendations on water. 4 years ago, in the state budget, the Chief Minister announced the Mattandu Kaveri scheme, basically saying, how can we double the availability of water to the city by reusing every drop of water twice? Simple. It's not rocket science at all. We have enough water bodies in the region that if we properly use them, and if we properly treated and reused water, if we introduce large-scale dual piping, there's a whole bunch of things, some 5 or 6 things together. Revati, I'm happy to share this document with you later. There is a full agenda for how to implement it. Similarly, the decongestion committee report of the Congress government identified what needs to be done for traffic management. with an emphasis on public transport and non-motorized transport and sustainable mobility. So the issue is not the non-availability of solutions. The issue is the willingness to actually implement those solutions, because many of those solutions will require and will come in the way of the status quo. The status quo, unfortunately, benefits the people who create the scarcity and the mediocrity. And until we recognize that this is not a technical and managerial problem, but it is a social and political problem, that all of us as citizens and all of us as politically aware citizens have to engage with it to say, what is it that we want? Who do we trust to implement these things? Even after you come up with the solutions, you ask any question. After you come up with the answers to those questions, you have to say, who do we trust to implement them? Can you trust the same people who haven't implemented them in the past? That's, Einstein said that it's really silly to try the same thing again and again and expect different results each time. So we have to recognize that the system is broken. And the only way to break it is for us to come up with a different social and political response, not simply think that more and more technical innovation or managerial innovation is going to solve this. At UP, we are doing one thing. We are running this program now called Nammura Charche. In every neighborhood, we are conducting street corner and house-to-house data collection and listening to people to say, what are your issues in this ward? And out of this, we will create 243 ward-level manifestos to say, what is the thing that is needed to be done in each ward? What is the promise from Aam Aadmi Party? And alongside this, we will give guarantees of performance across the city to say, these are the things that we will surely do. And 5 years from now, if we haven't done them, you don't vote for us. So in a sense, political parties have to be willing to stand behind the things that they propose as solutions. And the only way they can be confident of delivering it is if they include the citizens also. And if they work with all these other things that Srinivas and Arvind and Vishwanath and all the other people said, that the data has to be transparent, there has to be decentralization, there has to be more wards, there has to be more local governance. So if I can make one recommendation to our MLA, here's what I would suggest. Please rapidly revisit the BMRGA bill, the Bangalore Metropolitan Regional Governance Bill, and try to figure out how to reconstitute the city in a way that the future can be better governed. Everybody has said, 300,000 people are being added each year. 15 years from now, we're going to have 20 million people nearly. The city cannot go on expanding. We cannot keep adding every new area to Bangalore City as though it is all Bangalore City. One day, Bangalore City will extend up to Tumkur if we keep doing this. There has to be willingness to accept a more decentralized governance of the region, and the planning has to kick in. Without the planning, half these things cannot even be attempted.
Thank you, Ashwin. Two questions, important questions for our MLA. One is it possible, this is from Mr. Sanjay Saha, is it possible for the government to ensure that going forward, the approving authorities do not sanction any construction plan if it is happening over a stormwater drain, Raj Kaluwe? I would add lake beds as well, and the buffer zones as provided by the Green Tribunal. Sir, you are privy to all the conversations, important conversations that are happening right now. What is in store for future? I mean, breaking down buildings that have been built after due permissions is not a real solution. So how are we going to fix this in the future? And what kind of discussions are you seeing in the government today?
See, there are two issues coming up in this. One is, it is legally allowed diversion of the channel, that is stormwater drain, Raj Kaluwe. It is, if a builder or somebody, if he applies after the inspection, so it can be allowed to divert. That is the major issue, where recently we broke the concrete wall near the Divyashree, where the 77-degree residence was there. So water entered into the villas. So it is because of the diversion. Water cannot be diverted perpendicularly. So it will hit and it will come out. So that cannot be allowed. This is the one thing. Other thing, whatever the sanction they will take, they will not build only that. They will violate. And as you rightly pointed out, my thinking is also to save the houses, whether it is a small house or a big villa, whatever it may be. They have invested and they have built their house. So though we are thinking of diverting, if possible, the way of waterway to avoid the demolition of the building instead of demolition. Wherever it is essential, we are doing it. So this thinking is going on. And even though if it comes also, the buffer issue will come. Others will not agree. If I ready to divert the Raj Kalway, the buffer will come to other private land. They are objecting it, and we'll come out with the solution for that. And I don't know the earlier, now also, how the approvals will be done for these builders. I cannot say directly, other panelists have said about the corruption. So if officer or engineer who are give the NOC, no objection for the plan approval, if he gives without seeing it, after seeing also, if he okays it, that is becoming a big problem. One day I said, last 5 years back, I think, we should stop all the permission to new construction, and combing operation should be needed in my constituency, where the legal buildings are there, where illegal buildings are there, we need to identify. We are unable to do it. So such a situation is there in the outer area, particularly where the software companies are existing, dominantly Bengaluru South, Mahadevpura, and now it is in Sarvajna Nagara. All these areas, these illegal buildings are coming without, particularly if I go into the details, the buildings are built by the small builders, most of them from Andhra Pradesh. They build, they hand over, and they go. This is the situation. So for this, thinking is going on, but the problem is, again, we are not decentralized system. So after the third floor, it has to come to head office, and head office, you never see it. And for those people, they make an influence or such another thing. They go to the other way and get it done. This is the situation. Now I think BBMP woke up now. They may take action. We are insisting for that.
One more last question. You mentioned that we have totally run out of time, but it's a very, very important question. You mentioned many times, and so did Ashwin, that decentralization is a very, very important aspect. And while we have created zonal commissioners, the decentralization is definitely not complete. And really, Bangalore must have maybe 5 different corporations. This a detailed study was done. Several people were involved. It was almost done. And again, there was a false bogey put by some vested interests saying we are trying to divide the city. Sir, you believe that decentralization is, you have said it several times today, that without decentralization, we cannot solve all these problems. Somebody sitting at the center, not knowing what is happening in 800 square kilometers away. I mean, it is really not possible to figure out all these issues. So now, do you think now, when we brought this up 5 years ago, it was not acceptable, but now the thinking is, do you think that the thinking is that we must have multiple corporations?
Yes, I do agree with this suggestion. Actually, inside the party, I am the first person to raise this. And recently, when the Chief Minister visited to my constituency for different land breaking and inspections, so also I asked him, this is a Hosa Bengaluru, new Bengaluru. Old Bangalore is in between 4 towers of the Kempegowda. Outside Bangalore is very much, and that should be created new municipal corporations. And I suggested in New Bangalore, because most of the economic activities going on, and as other panelists said, more GST contributed and more tax for BBMP is contributed from my area. So I suggested this. Anyhow, it is a political decision, and you rightly pointed out, you didn't say the name, but I know who is political. I insist inside to create a new corporation for outside.
Thank you very much, sir. I think one last question would be, would you support the BMLTA bill? I know the cabinet has approved the bill, and we are pushing and hoping that, as you know from today's survey, that mobility is one of the biggest concerns, whether it is poor people, rich people, older people, younger people. It provides equity of access of various services and economic development. So would you support the BMLTA bill? And are you thinking that, we know that all various parties are aligned on this particular topic, do you think it will come up at the assembly session?
Yes, yes. I being a ruling party member, if I oppose also, it is my duty to support inside the house. And definitely, as a learned man, and I am a representative of Bangalore, I have to support this.
Right. So I think with that, we will close today's session. I know we have taken more time. We took 24 minutes more than what is required, but this was a very, very engaging discussion. Sir, all of us can talk to each other, but it makes a very big difference when a political leader comes to talk to citizens. We have taken a lot of trouble to get 8,400 responses. And I would really like to thank Mr. Arvind Limbavali and Mr. Ashwin Mahesh for having given their valuable time. And I know assembly is in session, and this would have taken a lot of time out of precious moments that you have to spend elsewhere in preparation. And we really appreciate that. And we have taken note of all these points, and we are very glad to hear that you support decentralization, both of BMLTA, a unified BMLTA bill, and the decentralization through multiple corporations. Hopefully, those will be the issues that we'll be picking up next time. And hopefully, we will resolve some of these issues as we go forward. Thank you very much. And that's all the time we have today. And we really thank all the participants for having been so engaged and sending so many questions. We have tried to answer most of the questions. We didn't want to take up specific questions of particular buildings being razed to the ground, etc. Those are all very political and questions which don't require to be. But I think you answered the general question of what should we do with stormwater drains and Rajkaluways in future. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.